Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw, and I'm here with a familiar face to those of you who know cruising. It's David Giersdorf, who's the founder and president of Global Voyages Group. Well, we're not going to talk to David about, we'll talk to him a little bit about that group, but the reason we're here is that David has written a book. And we're going to talk to him about why, what it is, and there's not that many books involving cruising out there, but this one, and if you know David's background, David has every right to write a book. To be honest with you, he's been in the industry for quite some time. Certainly, I've known him all my career. But anyway, we're going to talk to David about this new book, what it is, and why you might want to read it. And this is Insider Travel Report. Now, first of all, David, how are you and where are you?
Hey, James, and thank you for the introduction, and thanks for taking the time and the interest to have a chat about what I've been up to, and certainly about the book Hardships. Listen, I'm living in Bend, Oregon, the eastern slope of the Cascade Mountains, high desert, one of the most gorgeous natural settings you could ever want to spend the pandemic lockdown in. So I've been fortunate to have a great place to be during this past year.
No, that's great. That's great. Now, so how have you been getting through this pandemic? And I suppose one way to do it is to write a book, but
it's true. It's true. This book has been many, many years in the making.
Right.
I had this idea. When we talk a little bit more, my life and my career has been most interesting. And what makes it interesting to me are all the changes. And some of those changes brought about by disruption, things I didn't have control over, the unanticipated, the surprise.
Right.
And so I've thought about this book. I came up with this title, Hardships, because of course I'm in the cruise industry.
Right.
And I like the double play on the words. And but I always thought that some of the lessons that come from dealing with personal as well as business disruptions, especially in cruising, are applicable broadly. Okay. And I've always wanted, and I've always tried to give something back to pay forward. I've been so fortunate in my life with great people who give me their advice, share their thoughts and experiences, good and bad. And I thought, well, that's something I want to do. So I started taking notes and working with this concept some long time ago. And then, of course, when COVID arrived, the biggest disruption yet.
Yes, absolutely.
Thought, well, it's time. It's time for the message.
Yeah. Plus, you probably had a little time on your hands that you could do that. Now, of course, the full title, because it does indicate that it's more than just about cruising. It's called Hardships, Navigating Your Company, Career, and Life Through the Fog of Disruption. Now, just give us a summary about the book itself.
Sure. First of all, it's not just a guide to COVID-19. It's a comprehensive playbook. That's what I set out to create, a playbook that would support anyone facing disruption and hardship in their business, in their career, and in their life. Because let's face it, that's what happens to us. It's not a singular event. If we're caught in our career, it's affecting our life, it's affecting our business. If our business is impacted, certainly it's affecting our career and our life. So, and that's been my experience of disruption. So I wanted something that spoke broadly. I've told a number of stories, some through the filter of the cruise industry, others through the filter of other business activities I've had or life lessons I've had. But basically, I've driven to what I call the 6 protocols.
Okay.
Know your waypoint. Stay afloat. Find your first. Get flexible. Become collision-proof. Protect your value. Those are the 6 main, distilling my lessons down to those categories. And I have many, I tell stories and I make many recommendations within each of those as to what I've learned to be effective as strategies and actions within each of those. I talk about also about having an endurance mindset.
Right.
About, and I also have an afterword in the book where I talk about beacons of health. What's the future and what's next for the cruise industry?
Yeah, no, that's probably a lot of people are going to want to read that because we're all chomping at the bit right now as we speak. The cruise industry is desperately to get back in the water, and it's having its challenges with the Centers for Disease Control and a lot of other things going on in the world, not just them, but other governments and health organizations around the world. So I think a lot of people are going to want to know your thoughts about that. But let's go back and talk a little bit about your career in cruising and what you've done. You've done a lot, and I just sort of in brief, you've had a Global Voyages Group for a while now, but you had a long history before that.
That's true. I like to say I've had a unique combination of entrepreneurial and corporate experience in the industry, spanning startups, iconic boutique brands, and large ship publicly traded companies. So I've seen it all. I have a unique blend of experience, let's say, that I think has allowed me to be, especially effective in certain situations across the industry. I've gone from being one of a pioneer Alaska travel family, where we innovated, experienced the real Alaska, Arctic tours, the Pribilof Islands, the Galapagos of the North. We owned and operated Glacier Bay, the concession at Glacier Bay National Park for many, many years, and helped make that a famous destination in Alaska. We introduced small ship cruising to Alaska and expanded from that to the Columbian Snake Rivers, to the Sea of Cortez, to French Polynesia, to Central America, Panama, and Costa Rica. And that was just in the first 15 years of my career in the industry. So, but that was all small ship. It was innovative, it was high risk, and highly disrupted. And along the way, I also was part of building a sizable marketing services company, which we were fortunate to sell to Foot Cone Belding and True North, one of the giants in the global advertising and marketing world.
Right.
And for the past 10 years, I went back to my passion, helping companies that operate very unique and experiential cruise vacations go to market more effectively. What's the strategy? What's the product development look like? How do you reach the market as a boutique brand within a world of giants? And that's been especially fun for me to help numerous companies solve for those kind of problems.
No, absolutely. And you got a lot of experience. I know I've known you in cruising for a long time, 30 years that I've been in the business. You've always been there. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the lessons. You mentioned some of the points that you make in the book. How have you kind of used those lessons, and why do they resonate now maybe more than ever?
Yeah, I would say at the core of it all, I have maybe by necessity, maybe by just cumulative experience, have a mindset that it's critical that you, quote unquote, do the opposite of nothing and be the opposite of helpless when you encounter disruption. The sooner you you accept the reality and you get clear-eyed about the challenges you're facing and you get in action, the sooner you're going to come through it and the better condition you're going to come through it. So that is, that's a key lesson for me. How do you chart a course forward out of a disruption? Embrace a new normal, accept that there's a new normal, discern what that is likely to be, and move forward into it proactively and confidently. I wrote Hardships with the idea that it was for the long haul. Right. Because disruption is a continuous stream, at least in my experience. It's recurring throughout our lives. I would say that the normal stable times in our life are more the unusual. Right. And that dealing with, going through, recovering from a disruption are more the normal. So the sooner we get clear about disruption, comfortable with disruption, and skilled at dealing and thinking about disruption, maybe the easier we move through those periods. Yeah, well, you said, I think you also call it sort of helping to navigate those dark storms, to use a cruise thing, of business and life crisis. And so this book, you're trying to give your advice on how to navigate those dark storms, right? Yeah, and it can be dark because when you're first hit with disruption and sudden change and uncertainty, you can't always see. You had such a clear idea of where you were going, such a clear view of all the variables, right? And then boom, all of a sudden your vision is not so clear.
Right.
Your decisions are uncertain. Your confidence is impacted, and there's a way to deal with that. My point of view is when it comes to disruption, it's not just it's not a question of if. It's more like when, where, and how bad is it going to be? And if you can embrace the bad and the good as all the equal part of life, then you can deal with disruption with a more positive mindset that really is necessary to help you be successful in it.
No, and absolutely. Well, of course, you've published this book amid probably one of the most disruptive times ever in travel, and certainly in cruising, with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I guess this is a good time to publish this book. And how do some of the lessons that you've learned apply to this crisis, to the pandemic?
Yeah, and let's not forget the COVID's not the only big hit. We had SARS. We had the Great Recession.
Right.
We had the Gulf Wars. Over and over again, there's
9/11, everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot. We've had it, but this one, to my mind, and maybe because I now own my own business, was far more disruptive, if only because it just, for a while, made travel disappear almost, and then it's gradually been coming back. But cruise travel, except for small ships, is still not back.
It's true. Well, some key lessons for me. There are, and this is important to know, there's different types of disruption. So one of the first things you want to think about is, what kind of disruption am I dealing with here? Is it a sudden jolt, which is, impactful, but usually not long lasting? You react, you respond, you get back on your feet pretty quickly. Or is this what I call a slow leak? Chronic. It's ongoing. It gets worse. No one could have imagined it would be this bad. That's certainly the kind of disruption we're experiencing with COVID. Economic disruptions can be like that as well. Kind of a business can be disrupted. You can competition and time and consumer marketplace preference can slowly, chronically disrupt, a business,
right,
as well. So that's an example. I also would say that a key lesson for me is eyes on the prize. And by that, I mean, look beyond the disruption and what do you see, or what can you see ahead? And is there something there that's compelling that you can grab onto? It's like you're climbing up a cliff and you throw your arm up and you get that next handhold. What is that thing that you can tangibly in your mind and emotions grab a hold of to help pull you forward, pull you up? And I call that eyes on the prize. You have to find it. If it's not there, I have another term: find the exit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because some things aren't worth going through if there isn't a prize on the other side. So if what you're going through if you can't find that eye on the prize, then find the exit, cut your losses, get on to the next great adventure in your life.
Yeah, you don't want to go into another disruptive exercise, I suppose, at least not right away, even though that's probably inevitable at some point, right?
Yep. Another key thing I would add, and I have many, but I know we're time limited. I say have empathy. Every disruption affects everyone, right, deeply. Have empathy. You're having your disruption, you're part of it, and great concern about how to get through it and how to recover, but realize everyone else in their way and in their place has been disrupted as well. Right. And the more empathy we can have for everyone, the better. I think that's a really important part of a positive mindset. Just recognize everyone you're dealing with is a potential partner, is someone who could benefit from your support and your encouragement. Sure. And likewise, that comes back to you when you need it as well.
No, that's great. That's great advice, and certainly is very true, especially in the travel industry. Now, who are your target readers here? I mean, obviously, it sounds like it's more than just travel people, but maybe a wider segment of business readers in general, right?
I think of it this way. Number one, your great audience, professional travel advisors. Folks have been so good to me and supportive throughout my career and with the companies I've led. They've taken it on the nose.
Right.
This has been a terrible and very challenging impact. In fact, I've thought a lot about this, Jim, and I'll share with you. I'm going to make hardships, at least the Kindle version of it, available for free.
Wow.
Complimentary to every travel advisor in North America who wants it. I've read a lot about the contributions businesses are making to help the trade recover faster and get through this. 100,000 free hardship Kindles is $1 million. I'm not arguing that 100,000 agents, professionals will take me up on my offer, but to me, that's what I want to do, is make a
No, that's great. I'm sure that, and they're all looking for ideas and advice and trying to get through this. I mean, we're starting to see some business coming back obviously now, but it's been a really tough year, probably the toughest ever for travel professionals. So that's a great offer. And I would encourage everyone who's watching this to take, because I've known David for a long time, and boy, he's got some great things to say. And I think it'd be beneficial to anybody to read it. If you want to buy the book, I'm sure he won't object that either. But that's but that's great. Now let's talk a little bit about what's going on now with cruising. The industry has been obviously paused by the pandemic and the CDC. We're starting to get little stirrings this week, in fact, with some possibility that it could emerge back this summer. What do you think it's going to take for cruising to emerge from this crisis? Well, and also travel advisors, let's go there too, because they also are in this crisis, and also to come back strong. Do you still see it's a difficult road ahead, or how is it
yes, difficult for sure, challenging for sure. But I have to tell you, I'm long on leisure.
Right.
I'm long on cruise. There's more so than ever before.
Right.
Okay. First of all, health tech. Think what has been accomplished with the development of these and bringing to market of these new vaccines.
Right.
Okay. Mumps was the record, 4 years. We've done this in 1 year.
Right.
The deployment, how many years previously would it have taken to have the manufacturing capabilities and the coordinated effort to deploy so rapidly the vaccine? I don't think we'll ever be disrupted by a virus to the extent that we've been here because of what we've done in response. We have a layer of risk mitigation now and a new type of response that didn't exist before. So that's a reason to feel confident about the steady state looking forward. We know the industry is resilient. It's shown itself to be, all of its, not only cruise lines, but its components. They're fighters, they're innovators, they've hung in and done eked out every avenue of progress that can be made in the midst of this. I think our fundamentals are incredible worldwide for the leisure and cruise in the decade to come. Amazing time period ahead of us in terms of demographics and economics and all of that. We see that the cruise fleets have been reconfigured to a large degree. The acceleration of older vessels leaving the fleets would have taken 5 years or longer, happened in these last 12 months. Yet comes a steady flow of new spectacular vessels, more efficient, more profitable, to carry, to accelerate into the recovery, much greater earnings power.
Right. And more sustainable too, if I recall. They're going through a whole new power. The power that's going to be generated with cruise ships in the future is going to be completely different.
Yeah, I talk about that in that last chapter of the book, looking ahead around the near corner and the far corner of those kinds of developments. So I feel long on leisure. It will be challenging. I think we're going to see. I think of it this way: we went from a $45 billion revenue industry.
Right.
We went through the opposite of the Big Bang. We went through the big contraction.
Right.
Okay. We got a $45 billion industry squeezed down into a tiny little ball in a holding pattern, shaking and energizing, looking to explode again. but I don't think it's an explosion.
Right.
I think it'll be miniature explosions in different directions because we're a complex industry. We have all these different categories, segments within the industry, type of cruising. We have all these global destinations, and we have the issue of seasonality. As we see with Alaska, you lose an Alaska season, you lose months of restart opportunity for the industry. So I think it'll be in fits and starts because of all those variables, plus regulatory issues that are different in different markets around the world, Australia versus the UK versus the US. And we've seen all of that playing out. So I think that the restart is a bunch of these kind of staggered fits and starts forward until we get to a more consistent chance to go through a whole year of consistent rebuilding in seasons and in destinations around the world. That's 22.
Right.
And then 23, I think, is when we can really start to talk about recovery or starting to move more rapidly toward the normal state of such great productivity and energy of the industry.
No, I would agree with you there. What about the people who sell them, the travel advisors? What are they? How do you think they're going to recover in the next year? Because obviously, cruising has been such a strong component of what they sell for so long. Years ago, you and I both know a lot of them sold a lot of airline tickets, and then all of a sudden that got taken away. Although they still sell the majority of all airline tickets, but then they really did focus on cruise sales, which, I do remember the day when travel advisors who sold cruises were not really considered real travel agents. They specialized just in cruises. So they weren't really travel agents in the classic sense. I guess I must have been around too long because I remember that part of it. But now, a lot of them became dependent on cruise sales, and it became one of the biggest sellers for all of them.
Yeah, I have a couple observations about that and possibly suggestions. Number one, this recovery is interesting in that it's going to be first driven by the first vaccinated. Okay, so 65 plus, 55 plus, we have millions and millions of them, and they're coming out of their turtle shells and starting to make those bookings, whether they're close in or further out. So focus on this, be smart about the customer group that you focus on first in rebuilding your business. Secondly, it's I would say it's the more, what I'm seeing every day in the news is it's more likely to be the boutique, the smaller brands, the more specialized type of cruising, that is recovering first, the more affluent consumer that goes with bucket list traveler that goes with that. And guess what? 3, 4, 5 times the commission earning with those products. So there's a way to by focusing, by specializing, by getting smart about that segment of those segments of the business, and pursuing those customers. I think that it's possible for travel advisors to compress the recovery while they wait for the larger, more volume business to emerge. There are things they could be doing in taking advantage of being smart about where are things moving right now, where are the opportunities, and really, playing those stair steps in their own recovery of their business.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. Although we're speaking on the day that Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings sent a letter to the CDC saying, we want to start in July for vaccinated people. They are the first big cruise company to say that. I've heard a lot that the others are going to be quick to follow, and indeed they have followed on an individual ship basis for certain cruises around the world. And there are a number of smaller lines that had already said that. Now, some of them got a little bad feedback for that because then, we had travel advisors saying, well, what if my client can't get vaccinated? And I guess, we're going to have to start to thinking of how we do that kind of thing. But it looks like we're all moving towards, as you say, every cruise line will require vaccinations for passengers, just as they were all going to require testing.
Yeah, I felt that way last fall and wrote a couple, articles on LinkedIn about it. and suggested as much to some of the companies I work with, because it's not just for the safety and care of the guests and all the crew members who are involved in cruising, but it's also for continuity of operations. How can you restart your supply chains,
Right.
reman your vessels, remarket into an environment where you could be shut down again and again and again?
Yeah.
And the only way, and the protocols are fantastic. The cruise lines have always led the way on any health matter in terms of protocols, any food and water matter in terms of protocols. What an amazing industry, and tough that's been singled out in the way it has through this event. But this is this COVID is a beast, and protocols alone, through some of the earlier efforts to get started and then being shut down, were maybe a signal that more is needed.
Right.
We're very fortunate with the speed of the vaccine, the broad deployment of the vaccine, and it seems to me in the early goings, vaccination required. It's not just the cruise lines. You're seeing it for airlines. You're seeing it for countries. If you want to enter, it's going to be a norm.
Right.
Okay? So the sooner that's embraced, companies figure out how that's going to work for them. Each company's a little different in terms of their size of their ships and where they go and what customer audience they serve. But, get over it and move on.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. Although I got the little flimsy cardboard appointment calendar that is supposed to be evidence of my vaccination. I think we got to get a little more formal on that one. And there's a lot of talk about vaccine passports, things like that. And there's a lot of arguments about it. But I think we have to have some kind of definite, proof that people are. Otherwise, people are just going to go on. I mean, I can fake that one anytime, So that's going to be interesting.
I'll make a prediction for you. Vaccine, digital health passport.
Right.
Here to stay.
I would agree. That's
the new future, the new normal. You know what? People are going to want to know, not only do you have your COVID vaccine, how about the flu?
Yeah.
Okay. The biometric stuff, the temperature readers, just like TSA emerged, and we thought, well, for as long as we need it, okay, so during the time when certain risks existed for flying, it turned into an institutionalized process, and it has grown many, many, many fold. My expectation is that's what happens out of this event with health related.
That's very interesting. I know we're still there's a big shakeout going on, and I think I might even have a few more interviews scheduled by companies that are trying to get in on this with digital vaccine and passports and things like that. But it is look, before all this happened, we were on the way to much more biometric stuff, even through airports. But then it kind of was a bit of a hold on that the last year. But I was really looking forward to much more biometric approaches to security and to get me through those checkpoints at airports. So maybe this will be the impetus to do that also with cruise ships.
Agreed. I think so.
Now, anything else you'd like to tell our Travel Advisor readers? I know we have a few cruise industry executive readers too about hardships and what they can get, what lessons they can learn.
Well, listen, I would just say, I think there's something in this book for everyone. I wrote it to be valid 20 years from now. No, it's a playbook. You might only need chapter 3.
Right.
You might need chapters 3 and 7. You might need all 8 chapters. I don't know, but I do know that not only the tactics for dealing with disruption, but the mindset, the way to think about disruption, has great longevity and great applicability. Professional travel advisor, business owner, everyday person dealing with the challenges of life. I'm hoping this is a contribution and of value to all of the potential beneficiaries of it.
No, well, first of all, let's see the book. I know you got the cover of it right there. So if you can just raise it, there it is. Hard Ships.
Hard Ships.
And I assume you can get it on Amazon?
That's the place, Amazon.com. Hardcover, softcover, Kindle, and audiobook has been recorded. It's just a matter of timing of when Amazon puts it up. But all four of those formats will be available. And as I said, I'll be emailing all travel agents in North America with a link to download their free Kindle book version. Amazon allows a 5-day window when an author can do that. And I'll be announcing those dates shortly and providing the link.
Well, let us know, and we'll get that up on Insider Travel Report as well.
I really appreciate that.
And we'll get it out there, because I think it's an important book that travel advisors, as well as cruise executives, as well as people in business at large, will benefit from. David, it's been great to see you again. I think the last time I physically saw you was about over a year ago, but I'm sure hopefully that'll change in the coming year. This is really, I heard about this and I said, boy, we need to get this out there, news about your book, and because I know you've had such great experience in business and in the cruise industry. It's a fascinating story. I think the next one you should do is probably your own autobiography. And
I don't know.
or a history of cruising, which, to be honest with you, has not been done too often in the past, as you know. There's about one book that I remember that someone tried to do it back in the late 90s. And there's been a lot of stuff has happened in the cruise industry in the last 25 years.
I'm really excited about, despite my age, my longevity in the industry. I'm so excited about the future.
Yeah.
Well, if I were to write a next book, it's Next Cruise,
Next Cruise, and what the future of cruising is going to be, because I think everybody has an idea, and we see some indications of what it is going to be. Obviously, you mentioned some of the things going on. It has been one of the most innovative and fast-paced industries to cover as a journalist for me, and you just never know. It's very exciting, very different. Things change all the time, and sometimes it goes back to the future, and sometimes it's
Right you are. We
always thought for a long time people are building bigger and bigger ships, and then it sort of went the other way again. And now there's this explosion in expedition ship cruising, which has just been great to see that, as well as you said, small ship cruising. So
the pendulum swings, and in my experience, consumers thrive it.
Absolutely. Well, David, again, thank you very much. Great to see you. And everybody go out, get this book, Hard Ships. And again, if you're a travel advisor, David's going to send out information about how you can get the Kindle version for free. Rest of your cruise executives, I think you can afford it. So it should be okay. But again, great, good to see you, and hope to see you soon again live.
Okay, James. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.